let me say a special good morning to our listeners, viewers of Classic Radio. So those of you listening via Classic Radio, good morning. Those of you viewing GBN TV, you're viewing Channel 7, Channel 11, or Channel 20. Good morning. Welcome to another edition of To The Point. It'll be Friday the 16th of June. The final edition of To The Point for this particular work week for me. Maybe for a vast majority of our viewers and listeners also. Today, Friday, you get the entire weekend off, like I do. Got a special guest with me this morning. Let me just go over and say good morning to Mr. Brian Samuel. How are you doing this morning, sir? Thanks for being in the studio. If I could put it, you'd be chilling with me this morning.
Thanks for having me here.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm great. I'm great.
All right. I'll get that formal introduction shortly. Let me continue to say good morning to my, social media audience. Those of you via our Facebook page, the YouTube channel, good morning. Those of you also via GBN's webpage, gbn.gd, good morning. And thanks for being with us this morning. And back to Mrs. Brian Samuel, who's in studio with me this morning. I mean, it's going to be an interesting lineup. I've been reading some of your bio and stuff about you, sir. And interesting. What you have gone through in life, the things that you have been, I like the part where you describe as, how can I put it? Just been all around the place.
I'm a bit of a nomad.
From a youngster to the age you have now, you have just been here, been there, and everywhere. Tell me something about Brian Samuel before we go.
Well,
we go even deeper into the conversation.
Before you get to Brian Samuel, you have to start with Darwin Samuel, who was my father.
Yeah.
Darwin Fitzgerald Jerry Samuel, and I inherited my nomadic gene from him.
All right.
Because he started traveling at the age of 19 in the depths of the Second World War. Right, when Britain was being bombed during the Blitz. In early 1942, he took ship age 19 from Grenada to go to England to work in the war armaments industry. And he barely survived a very dangerous crossing by ship during, dodging U-boats and storms and all of that. And he's 19. I often asked him, what made you do that?
You would ever think of 19-year-old back then wanted to take that kind of opportunities or chances? Are we saying regular terms, the chances?
Let me go to a country that's being bombed and in war. But he did that, and he actually he worked in Manchester at the Metrovix factory, and he helped to build the Lancaster bombers.
Great.
He was a machinist, and he worked on the assembly line of Lancaster bombers, and that's what he did during the war. And then he stayed on in England after the war and qualified as a metalwork and technical drawing teacher. And you know about the Windrush, the boys of the Windrush that went to England in 1948 from Jamaica and Trinidad, but they often forget that part. But 2 years after the Windrush had kind of opened the floodgates to this immigration from West Indies to England, my father, ever the contrarian, went home. He married a Scottish nurse, Helen Hogan, Nellie as she became, and they came to Grenada in 1950. So he arrived in Grenada in the middle of 1950 with my eldest brother Jerry, baby Jerry, who was literally 6 months old then, and then he lived in Grenada for about 2 years during a very interesting time in Grenada's history.
Yes.
Red Sky days.
Yeah.
And
way before my time. But.
Yeah, before mine too. Before mine too. But he was involved with Gary during the early days, and they fell out. I don't know the details, but then he took us. I left here age 2, and we went Grenada to Guyana, stayed in Guyana for a couple of years. He was teaching. Then he went to Trinidad. Then he went to England, and we came back to Grenada for about 6 months to get himself sorted. Then we went to England, then America, then back to England, then Jamaica. And I've just continued in that trend.
And you're going along that path.
I've lived.
When you say you are typically a little bit of a replica of your father, if you dare to put yourself in that particular
it's big shoes to fill.
Huh?
But in that sense, in the sense of traveling, yes. I mean, I've lived in 10 countries. And when I moved back to Grenada in 2020 from Barbados, that's the 22nd time I've moved country.
Wow.
But guess what? I'm done. done roaming. I'm not going anywhere else.
Cross your finger and that.
You know, if somebody said, Brian, you want to go to the Philippines for 2 years and work? Well, okay, Philippines, I've never been there. It could be.
Something's going to pop up, and you never know. No, your book that reflects a whole lot about your life and your life with your father and everything. Song of My Father.
Song for my father.
Song for My Father.
A West Indian journey.
West Indian journey. I did ask you, a little more details about yourself, but you didn't share that yet.
No, not yet.
Give me a little tidbits about Brian Samuel before we continue and get in depth about the book and everything.
It's actually
Get a whole hour to speak. So
like most West Indians, Brian is my middle name. It's S. Brian Samuel. I like to say the S is silent. It's Stephen. It's Brian Samuel. But like I said, I left here at age 2, and then we went to. I grew up in
so born Grenadian.
Born Grenadian.
All right.
Born in Belmont.
All right.
From St. David's stock. My grandfather was a very interesting man. His name was ND, Nathan Dennis Samuel. But everybody, including his children and us, his grandchildren, everybody called him ND. And he was what the colonial authorities called a black peasant proprietor. And in my father's birth certificate, it says profession of father, which is my grandfather, peasant proprietor. It was a classification in those days.
Okay.
And he developed Montrose Estate in St. David's in Pedmont Town, and that's my roots from Pedmont Town.
All right.
And he did well by the sweat of his brow. He wasn't one of the the grandees of the the Grenada Employers Federation and so on, but he had a reasonably sized small estate in Pedmont Town. And then I was born in 1953 in Belmont, and then we moved. The best time we had was in Trinidad. I mean, I remember Trinidad so fondly. I mean, it was boy heaven,
Yeah.
We had a family, my 2 brothers, and my 2 brothers are called Tom and Jerry.
Tom and Jerry.
Yeah.
How did that come about? How did that come about?
Actually came about because Jerry was born first, and my father, who called himself Jerry, called it first son Jerry after him. And then 11 months later, we won't go into that, but 11 months later, son number 2 was born here in Grenada, up in Pedmont Town. And as usual, you have children at home. You didn't go to hospital and so on. So a couple of days after, when my mother was okay again, they went to the movies. Before they had figured out a name for the second son, and in the interval, they laughed at the Tom and Jerry cartoon, and the rest is history.
And the rest is history. I get the whole movement already.
Tom
and Jerry.
Yeah. So we loved it. We loved Trinidad. We loved Grenada. And then when I was 7, we moved to England, and my life went to hell. It's just
went to hell.
Who could like England? I mean, after you grew up in Trinidad and Grenada, to move to England, age 7 years old in 1960.
It's like another 180 you taking there now. Yeah.
Boom. Like for example, here, I never knew race. I didn't know what race was. We lived in Trinidad. Gracie Ferreira was a little white girl next door. This other kid Skillington was a black kid around. No, we never thought of race. And all of a sudden I go to England, and age 7, I'm being called chocolate face.
Wow.
Wog, Nignog. And I was completely befuddled.
How you felt at that age, being called like that?
Angry. Angry. I mean, it's not something I grew up with, and befuddled and angry.
Because you live in the Caribbean where everybody is with everybody. Everybody is everybody.
Yeah,
despite your complexion in the Caribbean.
This is an issue now. And, not the kind of ignorance. I'm a foreign kid in England, and these kids, they say, oh, in Trinidad, did you live in trees, and did you wear grass skirts in trees? And, I'm like, well, what kind of ignorance and stupid? We had a nice life in Trinidad. We drove a car. We didn't live in this caca hole. So it was a difficult transition. And in the middle of all of this, our mother left us, which is kind of one of the points of the story, which is why I call it what I did.
We're going to get into that part of it, into the story.
But just before we left Trinidad, our father worked at TNTech. He was the head of training at the Electricity Commission. And our mother had a radio show like you.
Yeah, all right.
She had a daily radio show called Neighbor Nelline or Neighbor Nell on the radio. So she was a bit of a celebrity,
Had a
as
bit
they
of
say in Jamaica, a celebrity. So she was a bit of a, something, and they were a flashy couple, so that's when he drove a nice car. So every day he would pick us up from school and pick her up at her place of work, which is Radio Guardian.
Yes.
And he'd go bap, 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 and she'd come down. And one day she didn't come down.
Just like that?
Just like that. Gone. And we didn't know anything. And it wasn't like they were fighting and, da 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 da, but apparently she had met somebody else and she just disappeared.
Just left.
And our father was devastated. I mean, he didn't know what to do. That's when he decided, he's going to leave Trinidad because maybe there were too many ghosts, to remind him of whatever. And then we went to England. So, yeah, I mean, growing up in England was tough. But, me, Tom, and Jerry, we were a unit, the three boys and our father. And it was four men. We had no mother, no sisters, no aunt, no grandmother, just the four of us.
Just the four of you. All male.
All male. All male. Food was a nightmare because my father couldn't cook. He was terrible.
Don't tell me about it. So tell me, let's focus on the book a wee bit in this segment. I'm getting the inspiration came from your dad.
Yeah.
How did it start off for you wanting to do this?
Well, it's only been 10 years or so, probably even longer. It started off as me scanning a lot of photographs because my father was a hoarder. He kept everything, parking tickets, letters. He would write a lot of letters. So when he wrote a letter, he would type it out, and he'd keep a carbon copy. So he had your letter to him and his response to you. So you had call and response. And he kept his salary. He kept everything, and he also kept a lot of diaries.
All right.
So we have diaries from Trinidad, Guyana, Grenada, America, England, where he wrote his thoughts, which is very interesting, at that time. So I had a treasure trove of documents and diaries.
So there was not much of a problem for you gaining information?
No. And in fact, I was originally going to call the book The White Knight Box because there was a White Knight laundry service in the UK that he kept all his documents in 2 of these boxes, and he kept them. And when he died, very tragically, I kept these books, these boxes, and all over the world I took them, and I never really opened them.
Never knew the treasure that you've been holding on to.
I kind of knew, but it was kind of painful. There were letters in there and all kind of stuff. So I found a whole lot of negatives.
Yes.
Remember negatives? Black and white negatives. And I got them developed, and wow, amazing photographs.
And that's something that's included in the book.
A lot of them are included in the book. And then that's why I started, to my children and my nephews and nieces and family and so on, I would write a story for each picture.
Wow.
And then it grew. And, people have told us, me, Tom and Jerry, people have said, your life journey is not normal, with your father taking you on board and taking you all over the place and all over the world. It's not normal.
Because 90% of the time, that's the kind of thing you will never see.
Yeah.
In a Caribbean society, a Caribbean father, per se. You never, most you hear of the Caribbean people who say, my father left and went to England.
Yeah.
You understand?
And our father did leave and go to England. And he left us in Grenada with his sister, Auntie Larina, up in Pedmonton, which was 6 months, but it was 6 months.
Just 6 months.
Just 6 months. But
some folks may have gone 2 years before they ever return of their father, even get to see their father.
Yeah.
They may have to go see their father.
And when he went to England, it wasn't cheap, I have the tickets that we all went on, on the ship called the Southern Cross. It wasn't an auspicious beginning because we went from Trinidad and it was a 10-day voyage to England, and on the second day my brother Jerry got chicken pox. One spot on his forehead, and for the rest of the 8 days we spent in quarantine, locked away.
Oh boy.
But that was £95 or £75 in those days for one ticket. My father's monthly earnings as a teacher in England was £95. So
he had to save up for that 6 months.
He must have borrowed. I don't know how he did it, but he brought me, Tom, and Jerry, plus our new mother figure in our life, which was Auntie Phyllis, who was our father's, as one would say nowadays, our partner for a few years, and she took us to England. So that's 4 tickets in addition to his own. Oh boy. And each ticket cost more than a month's salary. So, And going through those documents, you saw how he struggled financially. I mean, the man, everybody had Jerry Samuel in court. The North Thames Gas Board, Selfridges, this one, the bank. He was a financial juggler, you know. So it was a very unusual upbringing, and people have always said that, you know, one of us should write this down. And I guess it fell to me.
It fell to you to do that.
Yeah.
Now, in a situation like that, where your father left, and 6 months after he took you up, when you got to England and you started to settle in, you told of the what you went through, the negativity from folks calling you being of the black race and stuff like that. How did it continue for you?
You know, you have to, you just buckle down, you know. I went to we lived in Hampstead, which is a very nice area. We couldn't afford to live there now, that's for sure. But, yeah, I mean, we went to school, and, you know, you make the do. But the good thing is that when you left school, life at home was great.
Yeah.
You know, like me, Tom, and Jerry. We were a little. Yeah, I'm the youngest, right?
Yes.
So they used to beat me up for fun. They used to torture me. but we had fun. You know, we were a little self-contained gang. We were walking around. So our father was very busy. He was a teacher during the day, and in the evenings, usually he'd be out doing night school to get his qualifications, or selling World Book encyclopedias door to door in England. You know.
So he did whatever he had to.
He did. He scrunted. Yeah.
Used for a common Grenadian word.
Yes.
He scrunted.
He was a scrunter.
Now, how was it for you as a youngster, you know, growing up and been moving around as you said you did? How was it for you? How was that?
Well, just like my children did in the subsequent generation, we kind of hated it every time we moved, but we.
Anytime you settled, it's something.
But then we settled it, and everything was fine. You know, I mean, I did the same. I moved my family from Barbados to America to Zimbabwe to South Africa to everywhere, and they all kind of hated it for the first year, and then after a while it maybe take a bit longer, but they get to like it. But we were settling in England. I was 13 and Tom and Jerry were 16 or 17 or something like that, and then Dad comes home one day and says, "We're going to America." Huh? Well, he wanted to go to America because he applied for and got a fellowship for an organization called the Fulbright organization, an American organization that does teacher exchanges.
What year was that?
That was 66, 67.
And you know what that particular era?
We went right in the middle of that. We went right. He wanted to go, but he didn't want us to go. He tried to get us scholarships to go to a boarding school for a year, but thank God he failed. So we went with him to America. And that was amazing. In 1966, we took ship from England to New York, and we were it was about 200 teachers that were doing this from England and Japan and all over the world. So we had an audience in the White House with President Lyndon Johnson.
Wow.
You know, so shook hands with President Johnson. Wow, hello, sir. And he says, "Welcome to America, son." You know, in the White House. And then we went to a small town called LaGrange, Illinois, just outside of Chicago. And this is 1966. This is segregation. And we went, my father went as the English teacher, right? Because this is a little one-horse, all-white town.
I'm getting the gist of your story.
You're getting where I'm going with
I'm
this.
getting when you go
right?
with this.
So he is the English teacher who's come to LaGrange. And everybody, once we arrived in LaGrange, people would call on the phone, "Mr. Samuel, oh, we're so glad that you've arrived in America." And our father on the phone sounded very English. "Oh, yes, it's wonderful to be here. Would you come to dinner?" And it was hilarious. This happened time and time again. We would walk up to the house, knock on the door at 6:30 or whatever the time was, and Dad would say to us, "Watch this, boys." And they would open the door. "Hi, Mr. Samuel." Oh.
And it's like someone touched the pause button.
Are you the English teacher? And it was hilarious.
Because you know it was. I guess it was an all-white town more or less.
Yeah, segregation had just ended 2 years before, or whenever it was. So this was a very tense time. It was also the time of Vietnam.
Yes.
Bringing up also the time leading to Black Power. There were riots in Chicago when we were there, and it was a very, very, very heady year. It was fun though. We loved it. I mean, coming from England to America, color TV, air conditioning, girls, only American. It was like you were living in an Archie comic.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there was the racial tension that was very much in evidence. And then we went back to England. And
But between that time span with your dad being in America, how was he able to of course encourage you as youngsters around that time?
Well, he used to take us on what we could only call as experiences. I mean, he really wanted to round out our education apart from school. So he, like, when we got there, he went to, there were some big race riots in, I think, September 1966 in a town called Cicero. It's a suburb of Chicago. So he was there, and he wrote it all in his diary. Yeah. And he kind of thought that he would be writing this down with a view to future publication, or at least giving his children, And his thoughts and, comments on watching the race situation in America are fascinating. Like he says, and uses the word I, a Negro from the West Indies via London. All the natives are so friendly, and he uses that word. Yeah. The natives are very friendly, but then he says, but I wonder what they would think, for example, if I tried to buy the house next door. So on the surface they're friendly because he's not an American black. He's an English black. So we kind of okay. But if he wants to buy the house next door, So it was very interesting being in America for that year.
All right. It's time for us to take a short break. We come back more. We have Mr. Brian Samuel with us this morning. We're taking a break, folks. We're coming back more of the conversation. Stay with us here on To The Point. We're coming right back, folks.
Notice is hereby given that the 94th Annual General Meeting of Shareholders of the Grenada Building and Loan Association will be held virtually on Zoom as well as at the Presbyterian Church, Granitang Road, St. George, on Wednesday, June 21st, 2023, commencing at 4:30 p.m. Shareholders are required to RSVP their attendance by contacting the association's office at telephone number 440-2108 or WhatsApp 459-2103 or email info@grenadabla.com. Virtual meeting details will be made available prior to the meeting. Copies of the director's report and financial statements may be obtained by members upon application to the secretary or manager at the office of the association or via email.
Make money, money, money. $3,000 every week for 3 months.
What?
Yes, it's the NLA's Crazy Cash Giveaway Promotion. Every week from April 11th to June 30th, 3 lucky Daily Games customers will randomly win $1,000 each week. Imagine winning as much as $36,000 in 12 weeks.
How?
Spend $12 in a single purchase on Daily Cash 4, Daily Pick 3, or Playway. Look for the words Cash Winner on your tickets to collect $1,000. The more you spend $12 on your favorite daily games, the more chances you have to win. Must be 18 or older to participate. All prizes must be collected by July 7th, 2023. Other terms and conditions apply. See stores for details. NLA, making your dreams come true. Money, money, money.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers, to the point for today, Friday, June the 16th. Mr. Brian Samuel is with me this morning, and we're talking about his book, Song of My Father. Brian, I want to ask you about the book itself. The journey in terms of writing. You spoke a lot when we, in our first segment, where you spoke about how you came up with most of the material for the book from your father's diary and that little chest that he left with all that information. Now, the process of starting to write. You did say, well, after you found that negative, that you took the pictures, you have them developed, and that's how you were able to come up with writing about different pictures and so forth. Now, the journey for the book, as you move through the different chapters and you're writing, how was that process?
Quite not easy. I mean, it wasn't. Well, first of all, just on a technical level, I worked for the World Bank for 20 years, right? And I wrote a lot in the World Bank. Well, what did I write? Memos, reports, analyses, and studies, right? So when I started to write what I tried to write for myself, I was writing, and I was using words like however, theretofore, notwithstanding. And my beloved late brother, Tom, I can't say the word, but anyway, Tom, the so-and-so, he used to call me, he used to say, Brian Samuel, the king of turgid prose. I'm like, he's like, Brian, stop writing like you're in the World Bank, write from your heart. And that took a little bit of a
readjusting yourself.
Readjustment. So I would write something, and this is a song. This is a story of my life. Although it ends when I'm 22, so it's just it's a story of my grandfather's life, my father's life, and then our lives growing up. It's not really about me. It's about our family. I'm a part of it, but the main characters are not me. I'm sort of looking on.
Just narrating per se.
Narrating and what was happening. And there were a lot of emotional things in there which I avoided for years and years, and I never wrote about. I mean, how did I feel about our mother leaving?
Yes.
How did I feel about not knowing where our mother was? And a big input and help in all this is my wife Marion. She would read it, and she'd just say the same thing as Tom. Stop writing like you're in the World Bank. Say it. You're not saying these things. There are things that you're avoiding. Face it, say it, get it out. Because I don't want to spoil the plot, but there are some twists in the book which come later when we met our mother again. That were just to me and all of us enormous. When we found our mother, we realized we found a lot more than we bargained for.
Oh boy.
So a lot of that, the process of getting it out and refining it took a long time. And like I said, it took probably more than 10 years. But this is something I would put it down for a year or two and not even look at it.
And then come back at it again.
Keep it in my laptop.
Rewrite what you've written before and stuff like that.
And there were two things, really, COVID and yet another retirement. I retired from the World Bank in 2007-8. I came home to Grenada. And I've worked in Grenada. I was working at the La Source Hotel. I had my own small business for a while. But I'm doing consulting now. So I then went to the CDB in Barbados for 5 years. And of course, when I left CDB in 2020, it was the same time as COVID. So you got 2 years of not one thing to do.
I know.
So that's when I really got back into finishing off the book.
Okay. Now, the issue of that the book really speaks about is of your father raising you three boys. How do you compare that to now?
I don't know. Well, now I think
when I say compared to now, I mean under the circumstances of how back then a father will bring up his sons.
Very unusual. I mean, when I start the book in the prologue, and again this one I said it. Sorry. I had kind of said it once to my wife, and my wife said, that's the opening line of the book. And the opening line of the book is, I'm 8 years old in the primary school in England, and this kid in the playground says to me, where's your mum then? Is she dead? And Marion said, that's the opening line. Because it was, where's your mum? How come you don't have a mum? Everybody has a mum.
So true.
Where's yours?
But not that you didn't.
Not like I didn't. But when they said, where's your mom? I didn't know. had no clue where our mom was. I had no clue what she looked like, where she was. I had no, so to me, it was a complete baffling. Why is everybody asking me this question? Where's your mom? But we were
so
very
technically,
unusual.
you're saying that the memory of your mom is very limited.
Very limited. I remember things that happened before she left.
Yes.
I remember growing up in Curep in Trinidad. I remember going to school, Tom and Jerry and me playing in the streets. I remember going to Maracas. I remember our dog Simba. But our mother is this ephemeral, ghostly figure.
Yeah, so she's a bit blurred for you.
And in fact, in the book, I did a bit of a special effect on a photograph, of a family photograph with all five of us, and I blurred her out because in my memory, that's what she is like. She's a kind of a blur. And it's a funny thing. I would have thought that Tom and Jerry would remember her more because they were older than me.
Yeah.
But they're similar. They said, yeah, we kind of the same thing.
Is it because she was less spoken about in that time?
Well, I think it's a kind of a defense mechanism, you know? You kind of block things out. Because, funny enough, the older I got, the more she hurt me, right? When we were kids, she's like, you know, where's your mom? Well, she's not here. Let's go and play. It's no big deal. Well, as you get older, and one thing that particularly happened was when we were in America, we lived in, like I said, just outside of Chicago. We didn't know anything about her mother, but we knew that she lived in Nassau in the Bahamas.
Yes.
And our father went to Nassau to see her.
Yeah. Didn't carry you guys?
No. I don't think he could afford it. But he went there, and I think he was going to either to ask her for her back, to come back and help raise their children, or to at least make a financial contribution, or something. But he went for a weekend. We had a weekend on our own, and then he came back, and we said, well, what's the story? Oh, she's living in Nassau. Did she send any letters for us? No.
And that was it.
And you know, it's like, you have three boys, and we were cute little buttons.
Yeah.
Right? And you walk away, and you never look back. You never ask. You never want to write them, hear from them. You just completely leave your children. When I tell women that, when I tell my wife's mother, Max, bless her soul, she was like, how could any mother walk away from 3 children and never want to look back? You know, she was one of a kind.
It's typically the kind of thing you will never hear of in the area of that time.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that's back then, you know, mothers are more inclined to take care of their children.
Yes.
You know, so it is very odd that you will hear of a mother leaving the children back then.
Right.
It's not like the modern society now.
Yes. And our father did that. You know, he stood up. He did our cooking.
You know, folks listen to this story now may think about, wow, this is unusual. It's very unusual to hear of a father taking care of his children back then.
And I think that he decided in his mind that he was not going to get married until we reached a certain age. Because he would have partners every now and again, but they never lasted. And he did get married again when I had just turned 17. I think it was the day before I was my 17th birthday or so. And he married our stepmother, Joan. An English lady who is still alive today, and she lives in Stevenage. And poor Joan, I mean, she came into a household of 4 men. Yeah. You know, and this time I'm 14, and
the rebellion. That we said the rebellious age.
3 rebellious teenagers. You know, and Joan came into that family to try and establish some order because you know motherhood was not something that we were too familiar with, and she did establish some kind of order, you know. The food situation improved drastically, and so did things like personal hygiene and things around the house.
Know that you have that female as a family again.
Yes.
No, you mentioned a lot that after that 6 months in Grenada, and then you went to the UK. Your father, you said you did an auntie that came along with you.
Yes, that was his partner.
But no, having your father there for that period of time in your life, bringing you up, letting you know the do's and don'ts and everything. How was that period between there for you?
Well, he had a motto: keep clean. He was like, boys, keep clean. but he wouldn't tell you how to do it in any great detail. He just,
Unlike what the mother would do.
the mother would do that, right? The mother would be cleaning your shoes or your socks and da-da-da-da-da-da. My father just said, keep clean. So, of course, we were dirty little boys. So, it was, like, he had this thing called cornflower cake. One of his lady friends must have given him a menu or a recipe for cornflower cake. And he made this thing in great big hunks. So, you're going to school and you have a school outing. So all the kids have got their little lunchbox with their sandwiches with the crust cut off and an apple and a this and a piece of cheese and a kiss.
Yeah, your cornflower
We
cake.
have a big hunk of cornflower cake. But guess what? When all those kids finished all their little sandwiches and so on, you know what they came to me for? Cornflower cake. So it was a rollicking ride, I could say that. It wasn't normal,
Now, when the book, you written whatever, you got it down, the chapters you think, then you get it to a publisher. What was that feeling like?
Well, originally I was like everybody else, fully prepared to self-publish. Because publishing is a very difficult field nowadays. Everybody's writing and not many people are reading. So all of a sudden there's a supply and demand imbalance,
Yes.
And I wrote it, and then late last year, I'm ready to go, to start looking at Amazon self-publishing, and then my mind just completely blotted out at all of the jargon that they're talking about. And I met somebody just through serendipity. I go sailing every now and again on my friend Danny Donnellan's boat, Savvy. And on one trip, I met a lady called Vicky Unwin. And Vicky said, well, I told her the story of the book, and she said, well, I've worked in publishing, and have you tried Ian Randall? I said, well, I know about Ian Randall in Jamaica. She gave me his personal email.
You spent some time in Jamaica, right?
Oh, yeah, I lived in Jamaica for about 16 years.
Wow.
I went to university there and stayed there, and two of my children were born there.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I love Jamaica.
All right, man.
Yeah. And so I wrote to Ian Randall on a Friday evening. I said, sent about 4 paragraphs. This is my life. This is the book. This is the book, and this is my life. This is who I am. And literally about 4 paragraphs. He answered me a half hour later on a Friday. He said, wow, if your book is as interesting as this email, I'm on.
Yes.
And I sent him a PDF of the whole book I had at that time. He read it over the weekend, and he emailed me back on Monday. He said, let's go. And he's been a visionary in all this. Ian Randall from Jamaica, great publisher. Right. So he shaped the book. He changed the title. I was going to call it The White Knight Box.
Yes.
That was my work.
We continue to that, with all that information you gained from your dad.
Yeah, and he said, The White Knight Box doesn't mean anything to anybody. But the last chapter of the book is called Song for My Father. And Song for My Father is actually a song. It's a jazz tune by an artist called Horace Silver. Yes. I've always loved that song. So the last chapter I called Song for My Father. What was his song?
Yes.
He said, that's the title. And he told me to take out a lot of the... How many pictures of 3 cute boys can you have in the book? You know what I mean? So, narrow it down. Focus. And it's published on Ian Randall Publishing. It came out on the 1st of May this year. And at that same time, I presented it at again, thanks to an intervention from Ian Randall, at the Bocas Literary Festival in Trinidad, where it received a lot of rave reviews.
I was just going to ask you, thus far, how has the feedback been for this book? Some folks who may have read it, folks who just come across it for some reason or other, taking it up from the title, and for them, how has the feedback been?
So far, so good. Yeah,
was it what you expected?
Yeah, I'm going to sound conceited here, but I've always thought that it's a good book because it's a good story. The writing is one thing, but the story that it tells, it's not a normal one. And there are some plot twists. Again, I don't want to go into it.
We don't want to go into
now.
These folks got to pick the book up in order to get
plot twists later on in the story that, like, whoa, where did that one come from? So it is an interesting story, and I think I finally shed myself of turgid prose. So it's an okay book.
All right. We do have a caller online. Let's see what the caller has to say. I guess they may want to ask you a question or two.
Greetings to you.
Good morning.
Greetings to your guest, Mr. Samuel. Listen, man, I'm sitting here listening to Mr. Samuel, and I am fascinated. Various things. The story. Marvelous story. Mr. Samuel, you know, I'm from St. Paul, Abbery, St. Paul's area. And I remember Samuel family in St. Paul's in Pedmota in the region around the corner. Anyway, we'll get to that. I wonder if you related to them in any way. Listen,
Yes, I am.
I can imagine that. You know what fascinates me and amazes me really, Mr. Samuel? I'm a man of words also. I like them. You know, right here, I studied my little thing, American Star. You lived in Grenada as a boy. You went to Trinidad. You went to Guyana. You just said you lived 16 years in Jamaica. We used to do. You went to the United States, lived there sometime. You lived in the great United Kingdom. But you know what amazes me? Your diction, your speech of the language in Grenadian, the language. And you have no sing-song accent. And that amazes me. Our people go to certain parts of the world, and in less than no time they want to yank, and they want to talk Trini. Oh, what a nice thing to sit and hear you, Mr. Samuel. But my question, I congratulate you. I can only tell that story is an amazing one, and I'd certainly like to read it from top to bottom. But hear this. I am visually blind. Do you have any arrangements so that this book can be read digitally? Thank you very much and have a nice day. By the way, I'd like to meet you, Mr. Samuel. Anytime you see a crazy blind jackass walking with a cane and a gas mask on, anyway, stop. Just say, Citizen Rolo. I'd certainly like to carry on a conversation with you. Do have a nice day, will you, sir?
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Sir, I can't speak. Sorry. Thank you very much. That you've made my day with this. Yes, I don't know. My accent it changes wherever I go. I'm going to England in August, as I usually go like once or twice, once every 1 or 2 years. And when I get to England, I start talking a bit like that. When I get to Jamaica, it kind of changes. When I go to America, it kind of changes. I don't know. I'm just...
It's a Grenadian thing, and you know that, right?
Yeah,
we can adjust instantly.
So.
Anyway, let's entertain another caller. Caller, good morning and welcome.
Yes, good morning, GT again, and good morning, Mr. Samuel. I had an encounter with Mr. Samuel about 2020 when he did a presentation in an activity I was involved with, live through the IATGO. When we were dealing with the EIA process, I think, if you would remember. But as I joined the program a few minutes later than normal, but I was captivated by his telling of a story. And one of the things he said, that his father was a hoarder. I myself suffer from being a hoarder because I always think that material be helpful, not just for myself, but for future generations. And I have fundamental issues with people who think we should get rid of everything. So here it is, he's saying, Mr. Samuel said that he had a trouble too, based on what his father left for him. I mean, left for them, and left. And recently I heard somebody told me about a brother who died, and part of the story that they couldn't tell before is being understood now. So we have a tendency in this space to get rid of everything, and then we try going looking for it all over the place. So I'm glad that he can tell a story and maybe encourage people to bear, to try and hold on to something, because this is important. The colonial, one of the things they tried to take advantage on the colonized people was to ask them, where's your paper? Where's your information? Where's your claim? So these are things that we need to treasure. And people think that wealth is only what is money or gold, but wealth is also what you record in terms of lived experience. I'm very encouraged, and I would like to have a copy of his book too, because it also, to me, it adds to the repertoire of material which we could access. And leading to the 50th anniversary of Grenada's independence, I hope maybe we could have a major exhibition, book exhibition, which we have failed to have for the longest while, in which probably Mr. Samuel's book could be displayed. And also, I've been trying to get people to read the Hilda book of poetry, which few people know about. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And, you know,
if I could just respond to that.
Go right ahead.
You're absolutely right. We do need to keep history. You know, my brother Jerry we're always talking. He says, "Oh, you got too much clutter." I'm like, "Yeah, well, clutter it's not clutter. It's actual history." You know, and if my father hadn't kept all of the stuff he kept, I wouldn't be able to do this. And it's always interesting to get an actual thing from the past. And you know, it's not just conjecture anymore. It's a diary. It's a photograph. It's a document, and you know, it's facts.
Exactly. Hey, callers, and should I say, listeners and viewers, they're up there. This is an opportunity right now for someone to get a copy of this book. We're going to offer that.
Okay.
You know, I'm not sure. So we're going to have someone call us, and I'll leave it up to you, Jerry. Yeah, I mean, I'm calling you Jerry, Brian. You know, to maybe ask that caller something, and you could probably let them have a copy. We have at least 3 gifts to give away, which includes 2 other gifts, which inclusive of the book that Brian has here with me this morning that we're going to be giving away. So give us that call, 435-2041. Brian's I'm going to leave it up to you. Let's see if you're ready for this. 435-2041. And you can actually get yourself a copy. And there are 2 other gifts that I do have to give away this morning. And today leads up to Father's Day coming up. You know, and this book could be a beautiful gift that someone could probably go on out and get themselves a copy and give it to their dad for Father's Day. You know?
I think that's a great idea.
You know,
I'm actually running out of copies. I bought 100 copies with me from Trinidad when I came from the Bocas Festival, and I came back on the 2nd of May, and I've only got about 10 left. 10 left. So
we're probably going to take some details before you leave, and you can give us some details. Folks should probably get in contact with you and get himself a copy. Sure. Let's entertain this caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, sir.
How are you doing?
I know it's everything. And have you seen Samuel? I was at a book launch in Fly Basket.
No, that's a different individual.
I bought a book from Samuel, man. I think about something about slavery, one of the best of them. He was an Englishman in case of a good young boy, but came back and the book in Spider Basket.
Well, caller, listener, you have an opportunity to probably get yourself a copy of this book from Brian this morning. I know, Brian, I'm going to leave it up to you. Maybe you just ask something simple, and you know, if they've been listening to us all morning, you could probably say something that we or repeat something that we said, and see if they were already listening, and they could get themselves a copy of this book. I'll give you a little bit of a hint there. So
yeah, sure. My brothers have unusual names. What's my brothers called?
Your brother Tom and Jerry?
You've just won yourself a book.
You say you just won yourself a book. Give me your first name on here.
Dancer Boy is my name. That's Mark Dancer Boy.
Dancer Boy.
Yeah. Well, Dancer Boy, I hope you like the book.
So Dancer Boy,
I like reading in any case. I left to put young, but I couldn't read. I never stopped reading. I buy books and I care about the cost me.
All right, great.
Get knowledge.
All right. Dancer Boy, here what? As soon as the program is over, you give me a call and we can make the necessary arrangements to pick up. All right? All right.
Signed to Dancer Boy.
Yeah, Dancer Boy. Nice name.
Nice name.
That's another title for a book. You never know.
Yeah, right there.
We do have 2 other gifts to give away this morning, and it's also the question I'm going to ask is actually going to be related to your book also. You understand? And we just have approximately 10 more minutes left on the show, so I'm going to entertain another caller. And good morning to you, caller. Welcome. Good morning, caller. How are you this morning?
I'm all right, thanks.
All right. Now
I'm vexed. I knew the answer.
Said she's upset. She knew the answer.
I wasn't getting through.
Well, you know what the line is like.
I'm so impressed with that gentleman.
All right. Well, you have an option of we have 2 other gifts to give away, and you know it all leads up to You only want the book. Well, before we wrap up, Brian is going to give us some numbers where you could get in contact with him, and you can probably get yourself a copy.
Okay.
All right. So you will take a listen up. All right.
Thank you.
All right. No problem, man. No problem. You see, can I get myself in a little trouble there? Yeah. Anyway. And I'm going to be asking two questions. And for the next caller, please be prepared for that. The question I'm going to ask could get you compliments of folks of Duty Free Caribbean. And I'm going to ask the question in relation to the book also, Brian, if you don't mind me doing that. And I'm going to ask these questions, and you could probably, the individual, if you answer correctly, you could win yourself a gift. Good morning, caller. Welcome.
Yes, pardon me, Mr. Tellis, but I'd like to find out about the availability of the book in digital form so that the blind can read it. There was no response to that. Thank you.
Yes. The book is available in Kindle. So it is available in Kindle form. People have talked about doing an audio version of the book. Doing an audio version is very expensive because I have to rent studio time to actually read out the entire book, and that's a lot of studio time because you can't just do it with noise in the background.
Exactly.
The other way of doing it, we were also thinking of, is doing an audio book with a computer-generated voice.
Yeah. You have the AI and stuff. Who can take care of that for you easily.
We're thinking about that, and we're looking about that. So I don't think it'll be an audio book with my voice, but we might do an audio book with
a computer-generated voice.
So long as it doesn't sound terrible.
And the way technology is these days, you will be amazed.
I wonder if they can do a Grenadian accent in AI.
You never know. You just never know. So here's the option. For the next, we have 10 more minutes left on today's program, and I want to give away that next two gifts that I have lined up. And so the next caller calling in now, of course, please be prepared to answer a question, please. Caller, good morning. Welcome. Good morning to you, caller.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
Good.
All right.
Yes, dear.
You've been listening to myself and Brian talking for a wee bit, and we spoke a lot about his book. Now, he did mention something in the segment before when he said he spent a couple... Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Brian. Not Mr. Yeah, Mr. Brian.
Yes.
Yes.
Caller, I think you've been distracted a wee bit. You have a radio or something in the background that is playing and distracting you, so you may have to lower that and probably get back to us. I'm trying to give away something, but I don't think again folks are getting the trip of that. I'm trying to give you folks something this morning. Well, I don't think they get a hang of that. So remember, please, when you're calling me now, the option that you have to, we be giving away something compliments of folks of Tutti Frutti Caribbean. So please listen up, all right? And I would have been preferred if the fathers call. You understand? Because it all leads up to Father's Day and so forth. But good morning to you, caller. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
And good morning to your guest.
Are you interested in winning yourself a great gift this morning? In this segment?
I'm not sure. No?
You're not sure?
I'm not sure. I'm not really interested.
You're not interested. Go ahead and say whatever you want to say. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I was very fascinated with the gentleman's book and his experience from 2 years old. I think it's but what I would like to ask him, because I wonder, with all the different places he traveled and going to different countries to live, and what role did God play in his life from childhood up to this age? What role? How does he have any relationship with God? Does he consider having a relationship with God? I would like to know something about that aspect of his life. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much.
Oh, God. I'm going to get myself in trouble. Me and God are not really good friends. We kind of know each other from a distance. I grew up as a Catholic, and growing up as a Catholic in English Catholic schools doesn't really prepare you for an understanding of religion. It just prepares you to memorize the catechism and memorize this and memorize that. So really, in my adult life, the same thing with Tom and Jerry. I'm afraid that we are more of the agnostic type than the religious type.
Okay, I guess that answers the question. Good morning to you, caller. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right. So we in this segment, please, I want to ask a question. And are you willing to answer it? Good morning to you, caller.
Yes, yeah, Mr. Samuel.
Go right ahead.
You just bring back so much memories, man.
I can't hear.
Hello, caller. Go right. Could you repeat what you were saying?
Mr. Samuel just brought back so much memories from old programs that we used to listen to in our growing up days, like Just a Minute and short stories out of Africa. A lot of memories. But Mr. Samuel, I just want to tell you, don't be too hard on Mom. Don't be too hard on Mom. Mom probably she's not too well. Probably she's bipolar or something. Don't be too hard on Mom. And please, could you give me a book? I love to get a book. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You have to forgive and you have to move on.
Yes,
I carried a lot of anger with me for many, many years. When my mother died in 2003, I was living in Zimbabwe. She was ill. We knew she was going to die. When my brother Jerry called me with the news at 2 o'clock in the morning, I cried all night. I didn't cry for my mother. I cried for the mother I never had. And, that was a cathartic moment when I could just, I felt a weight, relief off my shoulder, and my other mother figure, Joan, has borne a lot of the brunt of my anger towards my mother. I never said to Joan the things I needed to say to Joan, and I never allowed myself to love Joan as I did actually, but I just had difficulty in all my life I've had kind of issues with mother issues, and yes, it did affect me. And my mother leaving us, it affected all of us, me, Tom, and Jerry, in our different ways. It has affected us. We didn't know it at the time, and as you get older, then you realize, what impact these things do have on you.
Caller, good morning. Welcome.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning to you.
Good morning. First, let me congratulate Mr. Samuel. I can't wait to get a copy of the book in my hands.
All right, thank you so much. Brad, we should give out those details there in terms of where folks can pick up the book and we do that. I mean, before going to giveaway, I don't think folks are that interested in the giveaway. So,
like I said, I brought 100 with me from Trinidad on the 1st of May, and I've only got about 10 left. I gave Art and Soul. I think they've got some left. I don't know. Art and Soul in the IGA Mall. We have more coming. More hard copies are being rushed here as we speak.
So that's the one place they can actually go to get books right now.
You can get it at Art and Soul. They may have sold out of the ones that they have, but I know that they have ordered some copies and I have ordered some copies. If you want, you could call me.
Yeah.
My number is 416-7609.
All right. So 416-7609.
Yeah, I still have about 8 or so left, but more is there any? And as Mr. Rolo,
was there any way folks can purchase books online?
Yeah. You can get them. You can get hard copy from Kindle, or you can get hard copy from Amazon, or you can also get Kindle from Amazon. It's available on both of those.
All right. Let's entertain another caller. Guess we lost that caller there. Well, we got to that stage of the morning because almost just approximately 4 minutes or so left on today's program. Interesting book, interesting story, and where does it lead from there? Do we will see another book from Brad anytime soon?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
and I know that you see the response that you have received from this one, and there are probably other stories you'd like to tell.
Well,
in terms of your life and the journey that you've been through and so forth. I mean, maybe I'm giving you hints right now.
I'll give you a hint. This book ended when I was 22, living in Jamaica when my father died, and then we found our mother. And just on that, enough of the mother right now. But then the next book I actually wrote before I wrote this one.
So there were one before this?
Yeah. One. Well, it actually picks up where this one leaves off.
Okay.
That's called Babylon by Bike. And that's about me, Tom, and Jerry riding motorcycles in Jamaica in the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah.
Oh, there's an interesting thing here.
Yeah.
Original photographs of Bob Marley and Stevie Wonder.
Oh, really?
Which is in this.
Yeah.
We'll find it somewhere. Yeah, because
I also dabble where you dabble in a bit of photography.
I was a bit of a photographer. So I found myself more than once on stage with Bob Marley and Stevie Wonder doing some very iconic concerts. The One Love Peace concert and this so on. So there's some photographs there in there as well.
All right.
Which is kind of interesting. But the next book is about more fun. But riding
it's more of the Brian, Samuel,
Tom, and Jerry. Three brothers, 3 bikes, Jamaica.
That's true. I certainly await that when that book gets released.
Yeah.
Right. Hey, folks, so we come to that stage of the morning when we're going to have to take a wrap for today's program. I want to thank all who contributed some way. If you sat home, you listened, you was inspired, go on out and buy the book. We give that number there from Brian. And of course, you enjoy the storyline. Any final thing before we take a wrap?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to my family who have put up with me for years in this. They're like, oh God, there's another chapter from Dad. To my 5 children, Tanisa, Sarah, Zachary, Dylan, and Sesame, to my wife Marion, to my brother Jerry, and my sister-in-law Pat, to my nieces and nephews in the UK, and to my gorgeous 2 granddaughters, Ariel and Rhea. It's all about family. I'm so happy at the stage of my life right now. My wife and I are just finishing a house that we're building in Pedmonton on land given to me by my grandfather, and it overlooks the Montrose house, the house that he built. So we really are coming full circle, you know. Right. I'll be 70 next month, and I'm moving back home, and every time I look out the window, I'm going to see my grandfather's house, and I'm literally coming back to where I belong. I couldn't come any more full circle.
Brian, I want to say happy to have met you, and of course, you're definitely an inspiring individual to meet and speak to, and certainly hope we could do this sometime again.
Thank you. I also wanted to add that my stepmother Joan in England, I'm looking forward to seeing all my UK family in August when I go over there.
All right. All the best. Hey, folks, that's where we take a wrap for To The Point for today. Once again, thanks to all who contributed some way or the other. Have yourself a good one. As I would always say, be good to yourself and others. Have yourself a great day.